From Congregation B'nai Jehoshua Beth Elohim will be officiating. In just a moment, he's going to approach the family to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya, and then we'll begin the service.
This is a strange moment. This is a painful moment. On the one hand, a loss of a loved one, the loss of a spouse, sister, mother, a grandmother, a friend, an aunt, someone who you loved dearly, whom you have lost. And this strange reality that we find ourselves in, sitting far apart, so much of your community not able to be present with you, and you are surrounded at this moment, at all moments, by deep, abiding, eternal love. There is unconditional love that fills this space, that is the lasting legacy and memory that will guide you not just through this moment, but all the moments that will come after as well. And so we come together to say words that matter, to speak ancient words that connect us to our past and to our history, but also that feel real and present in this moment. We share stories and memories, so that memory might become a blessing. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, and from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Among those ancient words that we say are words of the 23rd Psalm. Liturgy, poetry that we know, that says that right now we sit in the valley of deep and dark shadows. And we do. And it's okay. It's okay to live in that valley, to sit there for a moment. And there's a path charted forward for us. Something steady and sure that we can hold ourselves to. That there is a cup that runneth over with blessing. The blessing of memory and legacy. That even in the midst of loss might hold us and comfort us. Hold you and comfort you. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsor, binot desher yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech b'geitz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha umishantecha hima yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai dishanta bashemen roshi kosi revaya dishanta bashemen roshi kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti beveit Adonai. V'shavti beveit Adonai. L'orech yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan va'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, and God has taken away. Blessed is God's name. God gave. This woman who built up and sustained a family, who gave so many memories of joy and sweetness. And she has been taken away too soon, before you were ready, if you could ever be ready. And still we say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach, may there be blessing around us. Because memory is a blessing. Because stories and legacy, what she did and what she taught you and the way she loved you, the way she supported you is a blessing. And so we share. We share those blessings so that her memory might live on our lips and not just in our hearts and in our minds. So we'll invite members of the family to come forward and share. Share some of who she was and what she meant. I'll start with Debbie and David, or just one of you at a time. Start with Debbie, her sister.
While watching all my grandchildren practicing their gymnastics, I could imagine my sister Susie and I yelling out, presenting the Marco sisters with our arms interlocking with each other and held straight up in the air over our heads. We would then begin our lame interpretation of being tumbling artists in front of our large mirror in our turquoise bedroom that we shared for 13 years. We also had singing contests in our living room, where our stereo cabinet was, and we would play Barbra Streisand songs over and over again to memorize her words. Then we would let each other have a singing turn. You would have to start over from the beginning if you forgot any of the words. Or we'd run around the house and place our mattresses in front of all the doorways, playing only in the dark, throwing wet washcloths at each other like hide and seek. You see, Susie was the boss of us twins, and she was very creative with coming up with games while babysitting us. As she would often say, she got the brunt of it with my parents, because the eldest always does. We also played with Barbie dolls, a new kind of doll that just came out in the 50s, for hours and hours. We each had to keep track of whose doll belonged to who, but that became evident because Susie's Barbies were kept in store-bought condition, which led to her famous immaculate housekeeping. If you know my sister, it wasn't a secret of her loving Barbie dolls. It became a fun obsession where she ended up having hundreds of them showcased in her house. In fact, when it came time for her to move from her house into her condo, She had to sell most of them and gave everyone in our immediate family one that reminded her of them. She presented me with one that has long red hair and a beautiful formal dress and has the name Radiant Redhead written on the box. I will treasure it always. Susie had many boyfriends with her stylish Mary Tyler Moore hair flip and a curvy body in high school that I always was jealous of. She was a member of sorority and Henry Horner BBG. The Blue Princess phone never stopped ringing for her. After some years in college, she decided to go after her love of fashion and was a sales associate at Saks Fifth Avenue. I loved that because I could buy with her discount. Meeting the love of her life, Jeff, we were no longer older sister, younger sister, but more equals. We could start sharing more things in common, like me meeting and marrying a Southsider, Jerry. I thought I would lose my closeness with my sister when they moved to Atlanta, but we ironically ended up pregnant at the same time, and we had our first children, Todd and Kimmy, who are only 3 months apart. Today, all our children are a blended family that are more like sisters and brothers than cousins. Moving back to Chicago, Susie started working with me, and later with my daughter Taryn too, in my retail stores for 30 years. Turning the tables, now I was the boss of her. Not really. Susie's daughter, Kimberly Sarah, was her pride and joy. When Kimmy was younger, Susie was stopped in supermarkets to be told how beautiful her daughter was. Kimmy had those long lashes and a smile that lit up a room. Susie was so proud of Kim's accomplishments in life as a film editor, producer, and more recently a retail buyer. Just a couple weeks ago, she called me up. She was so excited. You made a $1,000 sale. And she had to tell me all about it. When Kimmy met her soon-to-be husband, Aaron, Susie went on and on to me that he meets all the qualifications for entering our family, and mostly he loves and adores her daughter, Kimmy. Now, Mason, her grandson, was her reward in life. He is so smart and talented with his Lego building, his coding, drawing, swimming, biking, and loving his grandma, Susie, and Grandpa Jeff. And that face with that smile that lights up a room. Having her share in the upkeep of my parents after bringing them back from Florida was really a big help. Dad and Mom enjoyed our involvement, and they got to live and see their grandchildren and great-grandchildren in the manner that they were accustomed to. Susan and I would constantly tell our stories and life lessons to each other all the time. I could tell so many more stories, and will, because I made a promise to Susie that she will never be forgotten. As sisters do, we've had our arguments, blame, and negativity, but far more giggles, hugs, and kisses. We have forgiven and forgotten, and have always closed our conversations with words like, I love you very much, and I have your back. I love you, Sister Susie. Thank you, Rabbi.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Susie's brother, David, and my family, unfortunately, weren't able to come here today, but they did send me some words that I want to share, but due to lack of time, I'm going to only share parts of them. My wife, Rocky, I am honored to share some of my feelings and thoughts on my sister Susie. First, I need to take all of you back to the year 1983, to a small Georgia town called Woodstock. Susie, Jeff, and Kimmy were at an outdoor gathering I was also attending. They were the most beautiful family, the most perfect picture of a family I wanted for myself. Little did any of us know that we would become family as well. Susie, my sister, Jeff, my brother, and Kim, my niece. Here we are, 36 years later, and many more have joined this amazing family. From my son, Garrett. We are one and the same, all connected, swimming through time and drinking up memories. We fight the same fights, speak the same words, and love each other as it should be. To be good is to stand as an example, to inspire others for the better. Susie cultivated the seeds of family which blossomed into 2 generations. She offered love and care, not just to Jeff, Kim, Aaron, and Mason, but to her sister and brother, nieces and nephews, mother and father, and everyone else around us. Our daughter, Charlotte. The second Susie entered a room, it lit up with her loving presence. The excitement in her voice, her beaming smile, and her unforgettable big hugs. While always my buddy, upbeat aunt, Susie was one tough cookie. She faced many obstacles in her life, and I admired her ability to remain ambitious and determined to overcome. Thank you, and I wrote a montage of remembrance to Susie, kind of words that came in mind when I was able to think about her and our days past, and I'll start out with the Dorchester Club. Boys, sun, and baby oil. Hot summer nights with a hall fan pulling in hot air across our sweaty bodies. Strip poker with cousin Jerry. Hold on a second. Who had a pocket full of coins and being naive enough to believe Jerry when he told us coins count. Hairbrush on the record needle, arm to play worn out vinyls. Susie saw the Beatles at Comiskey Park. We made up games. Wet rag, headlights, strangulation, feats of spectacular aerobatic performances. Wet towels on our parents' television to cool the tubes, running to our beds, pretending to be asleep. I purposely cut off a piece of her hair, and then paid her so she wouldn't turn me in. Barbie dolls. Barbie made the giving of gifts uncomplicated for me. Barbie dolls outfits for Hanukkah and birthdays, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Susie, being the oldest, became our trailblazer. Susie was first to be in trouble staying out late. She was the first to display hijinks, kissing boys while leaning out of moving cars, coming home with a lot of hickeys. She was the first being on the phone for hours. Susie always kept a light on for me. She shared our homes, her wedding to Jeff, Kim's birth, a lot of sweets and delicious food, her friends, her charms, loyalty, and love. Being my older sister, she has older friends. Susie allowed me to sit a bit outside her circle of friends, allowed me to find myself inside the circle when she felt comfortable enough that I wouldn't embarrass her. I liked being with her friends. I learned a lot of cool stuff hanging out with her older crowd. Susie turned me on to the Pit, Tasty Freeze, White Castles, Carl's, and Fluky Dogs, Bob and Jack's Pizza, Rib Hill, just to name a few of our neighborhood's food offerings. Susie's a humble woman, and no matter what was going on with her, she accepted me, cared for me, helped me, was always there for me. She's a fan of mine, and I have hers. Susie looked at her own tragedies squarely in the eye and summoned up all her strengths to get through them
all she could live to be with what meant the most to her. Love her family, friends, Jeff, Kim, Aaron, and her greatest love, Mason. I wish my sister could always be here physically. I will think of her every day. I love you, Susie. I had to do this to shout out to my family and this to my cousins. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Susie's niece and nephew, Todd and Taryn. Rock, paper, scissors, who wants to go first? Taryn, you're closer. Why don't you go?
My Aunt Susie was more than just an aunt. She was my friend, my coworker, my cheerleader, and I was her Rose. I don't think she even ever called me Taryn. I was just always Rose. And we had a very, very special bond. Given the amount of time we spent together at the store and family events, Susie was ingrained in the fabric of my life. She knew all my friends, she was a second set of ears when I needed an opinion, and she cared. Genuinely, truly cared about what was going on with me and my family. I feel so blessed that we had such a warm relationship that only got stronger as the years went on and our families grew. Sorry. Excuse me. As I reflect on so many incredible memories, the ones that stands out the most is sitting in the waiting room with Jeff and Susie and Kim when Kim was in labor. Just the three of us. Mason was the twinkle in her eye. Anytime we spoke after he was born, I swear Mason took up 90% of the conversation. That's not to say there wasn't still plenty of time to hear about what was going on with me and my family. She was like another grandma to Cole and Liv. She absolutely loved and adored them. To Brett, she is Aunt Susie and felt like an aunt from the moment they met, solidified by taking him to Bulls games, making her infamous brownies, and her popovers fairy buttered, just like Neiman Marcus. But when Mason was born, her world changed in the very best way possible. She became a grandma, and she was spectacular. She taught me that LaCroix was great before the rest of the world caught on. She taught me that receiving a handwritten letter when I was homesick in college could feel almost as good as one of her hugs. She taught me that a purse should be organized and stocked like a mini convenience store. But most importantly, she taught me how to be a good aunt, the fun aunt. Finally, Susie was also the person who introduced me to the Beatles music. I vividly remember cruising around in her Land Rover and thumbing through her cassette tapes and landing on a Beatles tape. The first song that came on was Obla Dee, Obla Da, Life Goes On, Brah. Now, being about 11, I couldn't get past the fact that the word brah was in a song. I would laugh so hard whenever that part came on. And in turn, Susie would laugh along with me. While life does go on, I will have so many little memories that remind me of Susie. I will and do love my nieces and nephews like my own children. I will always be a big part of their lives, and I will be the incredible aunt that she taught me to be, and this will carry on forever.
Apologize ahead of time. So, like most things, I waited until the last minute to start writing the speech. I apparently like torturing myself. Can't even see already, sorry. Apparently like torturing myself, or maybe I focus better when my back is up against the wall. Finishing a project with a hard deadline is my gift, but writing a eulogy for someone who was a treasure makes me wish I could request a permanent extension. My Aunt Susie was born on July 2nd and passed on September 2nd, but she was anything but second. To me, thank you, sorry. To me, she was always first on the call sheet. It seems like that was the case throughout our life together. Even though we started out with her and my Uncle Jeff living in Marietta, Georgia, and us in Chicago, we were always close. Kim, those 3 months before you were born were so epic. You don't even know the 70s, man. Our family trips down to visit you all were always so much fun. Kim and I always picked up where we left off like no time had passed. As we started to get a little older and thought we understood how adults work, Kim and I pretended that anything Susie and Jeff said was dirty, so we would just laugh hysterically at every sentence no matter how innocuous it was. We were always goofy, but Susie never had a problem with it. Basically, the only thing she had a problem with was trying to brush out the knots out of Kim's hair. Kim hated when Susie chewed her gum really loud. Grabbed the popcorn because those epic screaming matches were something to behold. With Kim being an only child, it naturally always felt like she was more of a sister, just as much as my brother Trevor and sister Taryn are. We were all interchangeable with each other, so much so that one night in Georgia, when hearing what probably was some loud playing in the hallway, Susie went to check on us. She didn't pay attention to her slightly revealing nightgown, and a really young Trevor pointed out and uttered his most legendary nickname, Hootie Boobies, that stuck forever. Once Jeff wised up and decided to take a job back home in Chicago, it meant that we would all be much closer. It always seemed like the drive from Glenwood to Highland Park took forever, but it really wasn't. Family trips back and forth to places like Wagon Wheels were always fun. I was even fortunate to join the Bermans on a trip in an RV. Up to Door County, Wisconsin. We all bonded over mini golf at Pirates Cove, lots of delicious ice cream, the Flavians, and I believe that is where I truly learned to enjoy a good steak. And my mom and Aunt Susie were able to work it out, and Kim and I were able to have a bar and bat mitzvah party. Kim went Friday night, and I had my service Saturday morning. We then had a large party at the M&M Club in the Merchandise Mart, where Southside boys got to lay their eyes on North Shore girls for the first time. That was pretty funny. They planned an amazing art theme party where guests reveled into the night. Living relatively close to each other allowed for this to happen, but it wasn't good enough. Susie was already working for my mom and dad at their store Royal Appointments in the city when they decided to open another store in Winnetka. The commute from Glenwood to the North Shore became too much, plus wanting a better life and education for my siblings and I, my parents decided to move us up to Highland Park, which meant that we would really see each other more often. That meant that Kim and I would actually be in high school together for 3 years. We were all always with one another. Even when we went to school and to visit our extended family and grandparents in Miami, we did everything at the same time. Making Susie and just hearing her laugh was always a highlight. Wherever that happened, I knew my job as a nephew was complete. I loved hearing her stories about her tennis lessons or her workout classes or whatever she made for dinner. She was a great cook and always hosted Thanksgiving at her house. From the delicious turkey to even the dinner rolls, everyone was always well fed, and that was before her pumpkin pie and my favorite, her legendary brownies. On the night of the big launch party for my first job out of college, I left early and raced over in my suit to Evanston Hospital for Susie's first surgery. Seeing her wake, but with a tough battle ahead, was a big relief. The hand that she was dealt over these last 21 years wasn't fair. But time and time again, she always battled back. While she would never quite be the same. She was still my Aunt Susie. I could still make her laugh, and I could still give her big hugs. Plus, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have the other greatest non-alumni of the University of Michigan in my life, my Uncle Jeff. Jeff, thank you for always taking care of Susie, from taking her to appointments, to making sure she took the correct medicine and on time, to generally giving her a great life. You are what she and Kim needed. I know their family was complete when Aaron entered the picture, and Kim and he had Mason. Susie loved being a mother-in-law, grandmother, and a great aunt for Michelle and my kids Tyler and Kaya, as well as Jen and Brett and Cole, Lily, Liv, and Addie. After 30-something years, Jeff and Susie finally sold their home on Ridgely and moved into a new and beautiful condo a couple of minutes away from my parents. It was going to be a better life for Susie in the next chapter of their lives. That has now been cut short, and I will forever be sad about that. Before he passed, my Papa Jerry was lamenting to me about how he was afraid for Nana to be around without him, but he was really worried about his little Susie Merle. I told him not to worry, that Jeff and Kim and the rest of us will watch out for her. I know that he and Nana have welcomed her back and is probably already yelling at her to hurry up, as they have an early bird dinner reservation at Heaven's finest Chinese restaurant. I never knew Susan Berman. I only know Auntie Susie. I will miss her greatly, and I will especially miss her brownies. I'm sure there are probably better looking and better tasting brownies out there, but none of them will contain her special ingredient, her love. Cut small and loaded with powdered sugar, they always went straight to my belly, but not before touching my heart.
Also, we'll hear from Kim and from Aaron. And Mason, too? You can stay with your grandpa. That's okay. Especially with the masks, try to stand close as you can to the microphone. I'll adjust
Okay.
if we have to.
You go first.
My mother-in-law, Susie Berman, lived a glorious life. I had the good fortune of being part of her life for the past 16 years. And I just want to talk about a few highlights that really stand out in my mind and convey what a special woman Susie is. She loved me right from the start. She loved to cook my favorite meals whenever we came over for dinner. She loved to buy me clothes and would always compliment me whenever I wore them. When Kim and I lived with Jeff and Susie for the longest 17 months of their life, it could not have been easy for them to have us invade their space and take over their home. But she rarely got angry with me, and we all came out of it stronger than ever. I'm forever grateful for that time under one roof with them. She always made sure to tell me how much she loved me and to show me how much she loved me and how much I meant to her. The feeling was mutual, and I hope that I expressed my love for Susie half as well as she did with me. Thanksgiving was Susie's holiday. She owned it. She prepared an outrageous feast every year. It was a labor of love for her family and friends who would congregate in Jeff and Susie's home to give thanks for our wonderful family and all the blessings in our lives. She did it for all of us, and it made her so happy to have everyone together eating and having a wonderful time. Thanksgiving definitely won't be the same, but it will always be Susie's holiday. When Kim and I got married, we all got to see Susie shine. It was one of the greatest nights of our life, and the love and pride emanating from Susie helped to light up the entire ballroom. She was so happy for me and Kim, and it's one of the happiest moments that I'll treasure forever. I'm so thankful for all that Susie and Kim did to make our wedding night the most spectacular celebration of our life. Then, something even more amazing happened, and Mason was born. Susie became grandma, and what a grandma she was. For the past 7 years, Susie devoted herself to Mason and his growth and happiness. He was her number one priority, and she was his number one fan. She wanted to spend as much time with him as she possibly could, and she did just that. I'm extremely grateful for the time they had together and the bond they shared and the deep, loving relationship they have. I know Mason will carry her in his heart forever, just as we all will. On her roller coaster of life, Susie rode with strength, courage, joy, and laughter. She had Jeff by her side throughout. What a blessing for her to have the ultimate husband, partner, companion, and best friend to enjoy the best of times with and endure the toughest moments. And together they created Kim, my pride and joy, the most beautiful and wonderful woman I know. I'm just so happy that Susie lived an amazing life surrounded by such wonderful family and friends. As Jeff and Susie so eloquently expressed at our wedding, sometimes you just have to hold on to each other tight and we'll get through it together. Today's one of those days. May Susie's life be a blessing for everyone who knew and loved her. She was an extraordinary woman, friend, wife, mother, mother-in-law, aunt, and grandmother. We love you, Susie, with all of our hearts, forever. And I just have a couple words for Mason also. I love Grandma so much. I'm going to miss her. She was always there for us when we were sad, and we were there for her when she was sad. We always helped each other out.
My mom was my best friend. She was my everything. The first person I call for anything. Always has been. She's my biggest cheerleader. Always there to support me or defend me. She shared in all my successes and shortcomings. She was an amazing listener. She really listened and really cared. She was this way for her family and her friends. Her greatest joys were what made other people happy. Growing up, it was the three of us, and I loved it that way. I loved our little family and everything we did together. I have the best memories of us camping when I was little, roasting marshmallows, Mom's famous fried chicken. We laughed, shopped, and sunbathed our way through amazing vacations. Even when Dad wanted to see one more museum, Mom and I would find a way to duck out and go shopping. In junior high and high school, she was one of the kids and always wanted to hang out with me and my friends and ask all the questions. She took great pride in everything I did, whether it was something I made in film school, my job as a producer, the homes Aaron and I bought, whatever it was, she told all her friends about it. She also took great pride in her appearance. She always was put together. Her jewelry matched her outfit perfectly, which matched her shoes and her purse. I remember when I went away to college, I started to realize how much I was like my mom. I remember calling her from my dorm room, telling her all these things that I did just like her.
And the same thing happened again. When I became a mom, I started to say things that reminded me of things she once said to me. So grateful for the millions of memories, experiences, and adventures together. She was there for everything and always made it the best it could be. She just wanted me to be happy. Birthday parties, back to school shopping, my bat mitzvah, my high school graduation, boyfriends, heartbreaks, moving into college, my wedding, the birth of her grandson Mason, the light of her life, her greatest joy. I could still hear her excitement when I told her I was pregnant with Mason. The second he was born, she was there again by my side. The smile he put on her face was like no other. He had her wrapped around his tiny finger. Grandma Susie would run around the house playing hide and seek or follow the leader. As he got older, whatever he was into, she was into, and she went all in like she did for everything. She was a warrior. I was always impressed by how she faced all the challenges she was dealt. She never let anything bring her down. She didn't want a pity party. She just wanted to be positive and look forward. I told her how proud and impressed I was by her, and she always said, "What choice do I have?" Devoted daughter to Nana and Papa, and loving sister to Debbie and David. Best dog mom to Peaches and Cassidy, and to her grandpup, Zuli and Buna. And most of all, an exceptional wife to my dad. My parents had an incredible marriage and partnership. They were best friends and did so much together. They took care of each other in their own way. My dad treated my mom like the queen she was, and she loved it. It really made her feel good, and she never took him for granted. Her smile was infectious, her cute tiny nose scrunch, and her laugh. It was everything. Her kindness was admirable. It was natural. She was a beautiful, shining light. I love her with all my entire being. I'm going to miss all these things and so much more. I wasn't prepared for this, but I will keep her spirit with me every single day of my life and think, what would Susie tell me to do?
All spoke so beautifully and sweetly and honestly about this woman who made you feel so loved. And even though she had plenty to worry about or complain about, plenty of reasons to be focused on her own struggles or challenges, she always made it about you. Always focused on your needs and your love, lifting you up, celebrating you, celebrating the family that she built up around her. Right now, in the Jewish calendar, we find ourselves in the month of Elul. It's the month that immediately precedes the High Holy Days. It's a month of difficult preparation, recognizing and pondering the fragility of life and confronting the reality of mortality. And as the rabbis look at this month, Elul, they see it as an acronym for a famous verse from the Song of Psalms, from the Song of Songs, Ani lidodi v'dodi li. Elul, Ani lidodi v'dodi li. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. This month of preparation, of seeing our humanity, is a month of love. And even though we find ourselves in the valley of deepest, darkest shadows, we're reminded that what supports us and sustains us as we confront the human condition, as we confront our own fragility and the fragility of the people around us, is that there is always love. The love that she gave, the love that you gave to her, and the love that she taught you to share with each other. She had a life that had its challenges, but she never let that define her. What defined her was sweetness, color, joy, was you. Born on July 2nd, 1948, and met Jeff in 1970. Starting as friends until that night when they were more than friends, best friends. And that was the key. Before there was anything, there was friendship, real connection that sustained you through 47 years of marriage. As you all said, when you loved something, she loved it too. When you cared about something, she cared about it too. When you built your family, she loved it and celebrated it. As we've said, Mason, the apple of her eye, and her great grand nephews and nieces, as if they were hers. A life defined by joy, by sweetness and love. There was just, as you described, an intensity of love and support for each milestone you reached, each challenge you went through. Each success was her success. Warmth, and above all, that unconditional love. It struck me very deeply that when we were speaking, you said that at the very end, she was there but not there, in that in-between space. Where she was on the floor playing with Mason. Where she was passing out bowls of matzo ball soup at Thanksgiving dinner. Her moments were defined by her relationships. And even though she is gone, that does not go away. Memory and legacy, this work that we've started, that you'll continue this week, that you'll continue this month and this year, and for the years of your life, will be to share the stories again and again and again and again, so that what she built, what she cared about, will last, will persist. I asked you the lessons of her life. And you said patience and friendship and presence and strength through adversity. But above all, it was that childlike wonder and joy. It was a love of life, a love of family. The love that we pray will sustain you, and that you will use to sustain each other. Zichrona livracha. May her memory always be for a blessing. Please rise for the memorial prayer. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים את נשמת שרה בת אברהם, שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בתור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Susan Berman, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring her under the cover of thy wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession. May her repose be peace. To which we say, Amen. I invite you to turn to the back page of your pamphlet for these words of Kaddish Yatom, of Mourner's Kaddish, words that we only say in the presence of a minyan. We only say when we are with a community. Memory needs a community. And together, you will share her light and her love so that her memory might become a blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yimru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mavarach le'alam ul almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei tekudsha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the one who makes peace on high bring peace to you, to all who mourn, to all the world. And we'll say together, Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the service. Memorial contributions in her memory to the Michael J. Fox Foundation. That information is on the service folder, and for those of you who are online, you can find that information on our website. Just so you know, here there are over 100 Zoom links going on right now, so it's several hundred people. So the services are now concluded, the formal portion. And at the family's request, if anyone wishes to address the family, to share a story, a brief story, please come forward. We do ask you keep your masks on and your gloves on. And for those of you online, you can also hear these tributes.
Susie and Jeff grew up in Chicago. I grew up in Rockford. We didn't meet each other until 1973 in Atlanta at the swimming pool, when we both moved to Atlanta. And we were friends ever since. And I for some reason, from Saturday Night Live in those days, I always called Susie Suzanne Rosanna Dana. I would get her on the phone, and that would be the first thing I'd say. And I think of all the wonderful things about Susie and her life and all the things that she did, and the cooking, like you were talking about, was just amazing. And I went through some tough times with Susie, and she was always right there for me. She always loved me. I knew that. And Susie gave me so many gifts. The greatest one sits right there, Kimberly. I love you all so much. I will always remember Susie. She was just the most special person. Jeff, you and I have lost 3 very important people in the last few years, but this one's the hardest. This one's the hardest. I love you all.
I found myself summarizing briefly, which is unusual for me, what I learned and loved about Susan. She was a daughter, a sister, a wife, mother, a grandmother, a cousin, an aunt, and a friend to so many of us. Susan Marco Berman, my sister-in-law, filled all our lives with love, warmth, smiles, laughter, and her spectacular brownies. Now she is an angel. Heaven is very fortunate, and her memory now sears into our heart. May you rest in peace, and we know you will be watching over us all.
I'm Marty Weil. I'm Susie's nephew. My aunt and my uncle, I love them. I cherish them. I had them to myself for a few years in the early 70s when they were first dating. And I remember meeting Susie, and I was taken by how beautiful she was and how kind she was to me. And we would go out and do things, and it was just a thrill. And Mason, you have a wonderful grandfather, and you had a wonderful grandmother, and you have such a beautiful family, and you're very blessed. And I think when I recall the times that I got to spend with my aunt and uncle, and I'll always have those memories, and they'll always be very special to me. And whenever I would call Susie, she would always say, "Hey, Mart," and I just always felt loved and supported and included. I love you all. And I know that my grandparents are here, And their buttons are popping. They know that this was a great life. Thank you.
I'm reading for my cousin Ricky Marco, who lives in San Antonio, and he wanted to be sure that his words were spoken. I will always remember getting the call from me, her emotional words, "My sister just died." Suddenly I'm thinking, Susie, my cousin Susie. Is that what she means? My very next thought was Susie was my sister too. I remember saying that. Susie and I were the oldest of George and Lottie Marco family. Our families lived only a few blocks away from each other. We spent a lot of time at each other's houses. When I was old enough to ride my bike, I spent a lot of time there, afternoons and weekends. We loved playing in the basement, eating lunch and dinner, and when I could stay, Aunt Jean would get us ready for bed and plan for the next day. She was my sister. Even after Gail, David, and Debbie were born, we were all family. We both were very close with Grandpa George and Grandma Lottie. We were the oldest. One of my fondest memories was when the two of us would spend a weekend at their apartment at 6900 Lakeshore Drive. It was a short walk from the IC train station, a wonderful ride along the lake to downtown. Susie was smaller, so I let her have the window seat. These trips were so special. We would either go to the Chicago Theater for movies. Back then they had a double feature. Entertainers who were in town would come out and do a 5 to 10 minute act, singing, comedy, or just being silly. No one left their seats. It was exciting. We were on our best behavior because we knew where else Grandma was going to take us, to Marshall Fields for lunch or dessert, followed by shopping for something to bring home. We never stopped laughing and giving her lots of hugs. I must share one more special memory. We got married at the Air Force Base Chapel in Riverside, California, where I was stationed. Family members from both sides were there, meeting for the first time. It wasn't until the ceremony was over and friends and family came to congratulate us that who came and gave us hugs? Susie and Jeff. Wow, was that a surprise. I apologize for being a little long, hard to pick out a few memories when there were so many. I love my sister Susie. I will never forget her. Ricky.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. Thank you for the tributes on behalf of the family. You may return to your cars.